Okay. Thanks for having me today, and I'm really glad to be able to share um, our last trip to Honduras. Um, I've been going, this year was my 25th year to Honduras. Skipped a couple of years with COVID, and actually my first trip in '98 was to Jamaica. That was my first trip, and then since then it's always been to Honduras. So, and the last 3 years, including this year, Wendy Weber, who is a member here at Bethany and sings in the choir and is very active with the mission group, has also gone. She goes for a week, and she's a nurse at GBMC in the infusion clinic. So a week is about all she can take off, and we're really grateful that she comes. I think she's really a huge part of our group now, and we're really glad to have her. So anyway, let's get started. So there are about 28 or 30 slides. I tried to pick some that would be representative of what we do and what we see and how things go. And you've probably seen this before, but in other times when I've spoken. But this is our pharmacy. So if you think your pharmacy is cluttered, this is cluttered. We do get to unpack everything. We have about eight shelving units that we put everything on: antibiotics, GI, cardiac, whatever it is we need. And for all the years that I've gone, my friend Sherry, who is a pharmacist in Mackenzie, British Columbia, which is about 1,000 kilometers north of Vancouver. She's up in the boondocks. She runs a pharmacy, and she's excellent. She not only knows the Canadian drugs, but she knows the US drugs, and she knows the drugs from Central America. That's quite a feat to be able to do that, and we really depend on her a lot. I'm really glad to have her. And so the medications that you've donated, the over-the-counter medicines and that sort of thing, that's what goes there. So when a doctor says somebody needs something as a stool softener, then we know exactly where to get it. Most of the time it's a nurse or somebody that's pharmacy knowledgeable will pull that medication, show it to Sherry, we'll count out whatever we need, we show it back to her, and then it gets bagged up and labeled, and it's given to the patients. So okay, here's Wendy and I. We're at the airport in Miami. We're awake and alert, even though we've been up since 3:30 in the morning. Looking forward to our next 3-hour flight. But I sent it to Judy, proof of life that we were here. We were on our way. We were really going. So yeah, that's it. So we had we were in a clinic. We're in different places we're in the same town usually 2 or 3 years in a row. This was San Marcos, which is about an hour and a half from San Pedro Sula, which is the second largest city with over 1 million people in it in Honduras. Tegucigalpa, which is more central Honduras, is the capital, and San Pedro Sula is in the northeast area. So we were about an hour and a half from there, and we were told that we might have some issues with electricity. So the first day, although it looks very bright in there, I think I might have done something with AI to make it look brighter. We walked into the clinic. Now, we had set up the pharmacy the night before. There was electricity. It was fine. Good lighting, no problems. We set up the pharmacy and the areas where the doctors were going to be and the ophthalmologist and all of that. But we walk in at about 7:30 on Monday morning, and there's no electricity. And this was pitch black. And we didn't know how we were going to work that, because we're trying to work in the pharmacy, the doctor's trying to examine patients and holding a flashlight, not so great. Apparently this happens a lot there. So this fellow was up on a chair, and you can see he's looping over a lighting strip. They were all LED lights. They had a generator, and once they plugged it in, it took about an hour and a half for them to get it all hooked up. We had lights. And so this happened every other day, except they just left the lights in place. So we just They just turned the generator on and we had lights. So, and electricity, because we give breathing treatments and we have an EKG and that sort of thing. So we needed to have electricity. So they're very industrious and they know what to do. This is an area where the patients waited. It was out of the rain, it was out of the sun, it wasn't air conditioned, but it was, and most of the time people would have a seat. So they would sit there and wait to be called. They're registered, they come in and sign in, they get a number, they get their name and where the area that they live in, that sort of thing. This town, San Marcos, was known to be a very artistic place. So everywhere people had painted murals. I think there'll be another mural. You'll see another mural in a little while. That they have murals everywhere. There's sculptures everywhere. I'm not sure why that particular area is like that, but we had never seen so much artistry on the streets before. So people were very patient. Actually, we did have some air conditioning inside that mostly worked. And so that kept it a little bit cool because the windows they're not sealed, but they're really hard to open. So you need some kind of airflow. So we did have that. So the patients were not really too uncomfortable. During the day, the temperature was probably 85 to low 90s. High humidity was probably the same as the temperature. So, and we were very lucky. It only rained a couple of days. And I think I've said before that if it's raining, it doesn't really affect us. I mean, we're going to be at the clinic, whether it's raining or whatever, but people have to come a lot of times from a distance. So sometimes they walk, sometimes they're in the back of a truck, sometimes they're on a motorcycle. So it's really difficult for people to get there when the weather's bad. So we are always very grateful. And rainy season is November, December, and January there. So it rains almost every day. Sometimes a little, sometimes torrential. So, okay. So we always bring not always, but in the last few years, we have brought crayons and coloring books and paper for kids to draw on. Sometimes the parents come and they're there for hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. That's not uncommon. And if, the kids are happy, the parents are happy. So we're always trying to find out something to do. And if we had more staff, if we had more people, we probably could set up some crafts and things like that. But in the last few years, we haven't had enough staff. So we just let them do their thing and they're happy. And those smiles were not forced. I asked somebody to tell them to put up their pictures and that's what we got. So these are some of the bags that have been lovingly crafted by folks here. We brought over 400 bags, which lasted till Thursday afternoon when we had seen more than 400 patients and given away those bags. So it seems like I would have more time to take pictures of things, and sometimes the things that look like they're the least influential. I mean, these bags are like gold. People will ask you for it. Do you have any extras? We always have to say no, but we're so grateful to have them. And they really love them. They really love to have that color. Most of the ladies don't carry a purse. For some reason, people don't seem to have pockets. And so they're carrying everything around in their hands. So if you give a family, a half a dozen toothbrushes and some vitamins, and maybe we need to give some Band-Aids. They have a whole handful of things and nothing to put it in. So when they put them in these bags, now they have a little container and they can keep those things there. And yes, there are plastic bags, in the grocery stores and things like that, but they're not going to give them to you. And to have something like this is something they have until it wears out. So it's really, I know what we have here, they are called blessing bags, filled with different items. This is a blessing bag before it's even filled. So yes, thank you. This is one of the families that Wendy and I help support as far as giving them something extra. A lot of the folks, their food sources are really finite. Their money is really finite. And there are a lot of families and people work in that area. There are big, they call them maquilas, which are factories where people work. And years ago, the factories were pretty bad. You know, they were hot. People were not ergonomically set up, so there were a lot of back problems, a lot of leg problems, that sort of thing. I think that somehow, I don't know that Honduras officials did this, but I think that the factories realized that if you treat the workers a little bit better, you're going to get more production, more product. And so women sit at sewing machines now, and the buildings are air conditioned. I'm not going to say they're perfect, but they're much better than they were. So a lot of people in this town, the maquilas were only 5 miles away. So people would get to the town, and then they would send buses to pick them up to bring to the maquila, plural. So sometimes these families, the maquilas, maybe their person doesn't live close by. They have a father, a husband, and there's nobody that's they're not getting money every week to buy supplies. So we try and kind of fill in sometimes for some of these families with what we can. So everybody that's seen gets whatever medication that they need. Everybody gets vitamins because almost everyone has parasites. In the schools, the kids get parasite medicine twice a year. But if you're not there on the day that the medicine gets given out, you don't get it. So if you're sick or if you can't come to school, then you don't get it. And the parents can go to a medical clinic, but they don't always have the medication either. So we make sure that once the people get their parasite med, for a month or so, they have vitamins to take. So they're going to get that nutrition. You know, the parasites are not going to take up all the nutrition that the person is getting. They're now going to be parasite free for a few months, and they're going to get vitamins. And so that helps to supplement some of their nutritional needs. So we will get, we will try and get things with protein in them. They're not so keen on peanut butter. Here in the United States, we give a lot of peanut butter to food banks, and that's a staple, but they don't really like peanut butter in Honduras. So we try and, one thing we try and do is make sure that they have eggs and things like that that are healthy and have protein. So this fellow on the left, his name is JR. He's a friend of Gustavo, who runs the program. And JR actually owns a recycling business, which when I heard that he has a recycling business, I was shocked because not many people recycle. But they have, over the years, it's gotten more and more. And now at the schools, they actually have barrels for recycling, which I think is pretty impressive considering, before it was trash on the street or trash in a container. So JR does we call it education. But once the person gets their, they've seen the doctor and the information's gone to the pharmacist and it's processed and bagged by whoever's working there. It comes out to JR. You can see there's a couple of bags there on the left. And he will take out the instructions and tell them how to take the medicine. A lot of people are not literate. They do not read. Doesn't mean they're not smart. They just never had the opportunity to go to school. And sometimes their children are reading the directions. Well, that's not always, you've got an 8-year-old reading you directions as to how to take an antibiotic. It might not work. So JR will pull out the information, give it to them in Spanish if they have any questions, or if he has any questions, he can come back in and talk to the pharmacist if there's something more. Sometimes the pharmacist actually comes out, and especially with things like inhalers or something that you're going to take a decreasing amount of, it can be confusing. It's written out pretty clearly, but it's still confusing. So anyway, JR takes care of that, and he also takes care of the seeds. We took about 500 packages of seeds this year, and we're very lucky that we can do that. That we have the seeds to take, and that they're so welcome there, because each package of seeds is, if it's $2 here, I would say that it's probably more than $10 there in their money. Um, if you only make $8 a day, which is the average wage of an agricultural worker, you're probably not going to go in and buy seeds anywhere. You're going to see if a neighbor has some, or you grow a very limited amount of things. So seeds are really, really important. And there's almost no one will say no to getting a package of seeds. So we're very, very grateful for that. Okay. So these are twin girls, as you can see. The little girl on the left is 10 pounds lighter than the little girl on the right. So for whatever reason, when she was born, she was smaller and she stayed smaller, but she's healthy. And to have twins in Honduras not only is it a blessing, but it's kind of a miracle, because it's very difficult to have one child when you live in poverty. Imagine having two at the same time, and double the costs and double the intensity of taking care of them. But these little girls were very, very healthy, and they're about 8 years old. And so these are two of the dresses that Lucy and her crew made. These are made out of pillowcases. So they cut the sleeve, they cut a sleeve out on the top, and then they take what's cut out and they make pockets on the front of the dresses. So I think we took over 100, which means that there were a lot of people doing a lot of sewing for that. And I think Bethany is really blessed by all the sewers that we have, because a lot of sewing was going on for this project. So there are other pictures and all, and there was another picture, and I don't think there's another picture of a dress with one little girl. And Judy, what was that? Do you remember that lady's name? Carol has made them for another. She's not a member here, is she? Yeah. She is now. But she made other dresses, not out of that, but from. Oh, all right. And they made those dresses. They made some other dresses, and I did take a picture, but I didn't include it here. So again, lots of sewers, lots of donators, lots of people supporting us in Honduras. Okay. So these little boys, the lady on the right is Dr. Mildred, and you'll see Gustavo at the end of our program, the director. This is his wife. She's an adult practitioner of internal medicine, but when you're in Honduras and you need to see kids, you see kids. And these two little boys, both of them had a temperature of over 104. There was some kind of a flu going around. Thank goodness we didn't get it. It seemed like it was mostly children. We didn't see it in any adults, but we saw probably 24 children with temperatures 103, 104. A couple were even 105. And in and of itself, a fever isn't terrible, but they're just laying around. I mean, we had kids that were brought in, carried in because they couldn't walk. They were just feeling so bad. So they had just gotten Tylenol for their fever. And I know I don't have a picture of them afterward, but within an hour, we couldn't control them. They were racing around. They were so happy to be well. And so Mildred's just saying, look at the camera here. So, and the luggage that's there. Now, I think that luggage probably went back with whoever came on the trip. But sometimes we'll take a piece of luggage and we'll pack it with whatever, anything that we're going to be donating. We take it on the trip and then we leave it there. And then we can put some supplies in there. And it's nice to have those. So once in a while, we don't do it all the time, but we do it some of the time. So sometimes you'll see them. The barrel on the left behind the little boy, that's one of the barrels that was packed here. It's clean. It came, it's never had anything in it, so they can put water in it. And that's really important, because if they have potable water, they don't have drinkable water from a faucet there. Anyway, I've never had a drink of water out of a faucet in Honduras anywhere. It's always bottled. But if you've got a clean container like that and you have clean water, then you can put it in there. So not only do those barrels get packed full of goods, they get used later on because they can use it for water.
How did they get there?
So the barrels. Thank you, Rose. Um, so in the last couple of years, we found out how to ship barrels to Honduras for a good price. And a good price is $250 a barrel. We pack whatever we want in it, no matter what the weight, it's $250. So it's by volume, not by weight. And I'll tell you, I think the first year we could barely pick, I think we only have one barrel the first year, two. We could barely move them. Poor, it was terrible. But anyway, so this year we packed 3 and they were filled to the brim. And I know there's not a picture here, but Carol Miller, who most of you know, does this and sends one to Africa every few months. That's what she does with a different company. But she's actually sitting on the top to make sure that we can get it closed. So anyway, that 250. So this year we sent 3 barrels, 250 each, and was it $45 for each barrel or altogether? But no, but the insurance. Around $40 for insurance for each barrel, which we know had way more than we know that it had at least $1,500 worth. In fact, a couple of them had, we knew more. The company is in south of Richmond. It's a Hispanic company. They drive up, they pick up our barrels, $20 to pick up 3 barrels, which, you can't, that's way more than you pay for gas. I mean, way less than you pay for gas. Goes back to Richmond twice a month. It's shipped to Norfolk, Virginia, where it's loaded onto a freighter. It then takes 2 weeks to get to Puerto Cortez, which is the port in Honduras where a lot of things come in the northeast area. It sits there for about a week, waiting to have customs check it out, make sure it's all legal. It's nothing illegal in there. And then someone from the company there drives it to Gustavo's home, which is an hour and a half away, for no fee. So for $250 per barrel, what a bargain. We're so lucky that we found out how to do this. And they're very good. Everything has always come in perfect condition. No, I shouldn't probably giving myself bad juju with that. But it comes well, intact. Nothing, we've never had anything broken. Although I have to say, if Carol Miller's packing your barrel, don't ever worry about anything getting broken. She knows what she's doing. So, yeah. So anyway, that's the story of the barrels, but the barrels have been a real blessing for us to be able to use, because we could never take all that. We could never take all that equipment. You can take 150 pounds and then pay another $250 for one more bag on a flight. And it still wouldn't be that much weight. We still wouldn't have that much volume available to us. So, all right, that's enough on that. What time is it? I got to get talking. So this is in the morning. We were in some kind of a house where a worker for the town that we were in, lived in at some point. I guess that the town owned the house. So I guess different people, if they managed, the electricity or something, they could live in this house. Well, nobody lives there now, but we were able to have our meals there. We have a cook that cooks all of our food. She does a really good job. Everything is very clean. Everything is washed, bleached. Even some of the food is bleached, so that we don't get sick from it. So, but every morning at 7 a.m. we have devotions. So this is a morning. Gustavo's left on the end, and then you can see Wendy on the right there. So we sing a few songs. There's a little songbook that you can see in somebody's hand on the left. We sing them in English and Spanish, and then we have a devotional, a prayer, and then we have breakfast. And by 7:45, we're walking to the clinic. So that's our our daily, that's what we do daily. Okay. So this little girl was one of the little girls with a high fever, and she had a lot of respiratory issues. And this, you can see this is a young mother. I think she was under 20. And this little girl was pretty sick. She got a couple of breathing treatments, and I'm not sure if I don't know if I showed the before and after. This is the before picture. I'm not sure if I showed the after picture, but she was much better. She actually came back for 2 more days, and I did breathing treatments with a nebulizer. It's pretty simple, but people first of all don't have electricity in their houses, so if you don't have electricity, you can't use a nebulizer. And then you have to have the nebulizer, and you have to have the medicine and that sort of thing. So coming to our clinic, especially having the follow-up, having the doctors look at the children afterward to see how they're doing and if they need to come back again, that's really a blessing, because sometimes people are undertreated. Sometimes people are overtreated. But for respiratory things, a lot of kids come in and the parents will say, oh, they're fine, they're good, everything's fine, I don't have any complaints. And you listen to them and they sound like little choo-choo trains in their chest. They're just so wheezy and all. And are they usually like this? Oh yeah, but they're fine. They're not fine. But it's good that we can do that. And yeah, so, okay. So we were staying in a hotel, which was very nice, the nicest hotel we've ever stayed in. And across the street was this man. And every single day for 2 weeks, he came out, and this is what he did. He sat there and he sold fruit. Now you can see that he's probably not a young man, but every day he drags out the fruit and he sells it. And sometimes he just sells 1 banana at a time. But in Honduras, there's no Social Security. Most people have never worked anywhere where they could save any money. Everything is, paycheck to paycheck. Most people don't own the house that they live in or the land that it's on. So people in their 60s, 70s, 80s are still working. And it's not, even though he's sitting down there, it's all day long and it's dragging things in and out. So it's a very tough time for people. And at his age, at my age, that's what I wouldn't want to be having to do to get by. But they do it, and people support them, even if they only come by and buy 1 banana at a time. So, okay. So this little girl, another little girl who wasn't feeling great, but she was actually asleep there, so she's fine. Doesn't look fine, but she's fine. So Carol Miller, and others, were very generous this year in getting some clothing supplies. And shoes are one of the things that are important, because a lot of kids don't have shoes. And a lot of the parasites, the hookworms and all, actually come up through the ground into the sole of your foot. So kids have diseases that they don't even know they have, because it wasn't anything they did. They just walked. They just walked somewhere. So hookworm is the one that they get through their feet, but they get roundworm, they get tapeworm. And the kids, there's a lot of stuff we all know that here. I mean, you can get these here, but we wash our hands, and we have our kids wash our hands, and anybody that knows anything about basic hygiene washes their hands. But if you don't have running water in your house, then you're not going to wash your hands. Or if you have a bottle, or you've gone to the stream and have a 5-gallon bucket, you're going to use that to drink, even though you shouldn't. You're going to use that to cook, even though you shouldn't. And so hand washing, a lot of times is not something that, especially the younger kids, do. So, anyway, he's putting on some shoes for her, and they're like a water shoe, but that's perfect there because it's pouring rain so much of the time that it's good that it's something that dries out quickly and all. And the parents are very grateful for whatever we can do. Okay, and the fellow that was there on the right, his name is Edgardo, and we call him MacGyver, because if something's broken, he can fix it. He fixes everything. And a couple of years ago, we sent stirrups, which ladies will know are something that you use in the OB's office to get in a certain type of position to make an exam easier. And we just sent the stirrups. And he took a table that was just a regular table, and he was able to put them in place. And so these last few years when we've gone, it's all there, it's all ready to go. And he did it he did it, and within 10 minutes we were using it. So we're grateful for him, and he has a wonderful rapport with children. Kids are running around, they're screaming, whatever. He goes and he gets down on his hands and knees and he talks to them, and he's able to calm children down. He's really magic, and the parents are really happy because they can get other things done while they're there for their other children and for themselves and for those children too. So we take soccer balls. The last few years we've taken soccer balls, and they're flat, so they don't take up much space. Plus, they're great to go in the barrels because they're a really good cushion. Carol loves them. So this fellow, and we try not to, I think we took about a dozen. So we can't give them to everybody. But we know that some of the kids, they seem like they're playing with their siblings or other kids. And we think, maybe this child would like a soccer ball. And this was at the end of the day. You can't tell, but it's pretty dark out there. And he was so excited to have that. And I can't tell. I think that's one of the black bags that were sewn. It was a big bag. And we don't really want the kids walking around with the soccer balls because, I hate to say it, but kids are kids. And if they can get a ball away from somebody, those soccer balls, that's like gold for a child. So we haven't put them in the bags, and then they're walking around and nobody really knows that it's a soccer ball in there. So anyway, you can see he was very excited. And there's another painting. I'm not sure who that person's supposed to be, if it's supposed to be anybody, but more art from the area. Okay. So we had two lady dentists, two female dentists who were excellent, and they were in a different space. It would be like if they were in the church itself. So from here to there, it doesn't seem like it's very long, but when you have to go outside and you're busy, you don't get back. So this is not a picture I took, but we worked with these ladies every day. And these, you can see that these are their dental chairs. The one on the right is the one that was gifted by some very generous donors here from Bethany. And it's very much nicer than the one on the left. So the dentists always vie for that chair. It's got more ways to arrange it, to make the patient comfortable, to make the dentist comfortable. It's been terrific. So between the two of them, they would see anywhere from 25 to 35 patients a day. So cleaning, pulling teeth, doing some minor surgeries, that sort of thing. That's what they do. Okay. This is a, I think this was probably dinner, and I just the red beans, some plantains, eggs, and then they have a special cheese that we eat. But that would be typical of a meal we would have. We also have meals that are more focused, like a North American. People that come on these trips, if they come from Canada or the U.S., they just call us North Americans. They don't refer to us as from the U.S. It's just North Americans. But this would be a typical dinner that we might have, or breakfast. So, okay. This is Daniel. I've known Daniel for more than 15 years. He is an optometrist. He has he went to school in Guatemala. In the last few years, he would go. I think his story is so amazing, and it shows the resilience and the tenacity people have. He had to go to Guatemala once a month for 4 years to take classes, in-person classes, from all day Saturday and all day Sunday. They would leave. He and 4 friends rented a vehicle. They drove from San Pedro Sula to Guatemala, which is almost an 8-hour drive. They drove all night. They had classes all day. They slept at night in a hotel or church or somewhere. The next day they had classes till about 2 in the afternoon, and then they drove back, got back between 10 and 12 at night, and then they went to their work jobs and all. they were able to do some classes online, but the hands-on things and all of that were done. So for 4.5, 5 years, he was doing that. He still wants to get a certification in, he is blind in one eye. So that's another, I mean, he's been like that since he was a child. So just, again, the tenacity of learning and doing all that he did. So he wants to get a certification for optometrists that deal with people with monocular or one vision. And I have to say, there's a lot of people in Honduras that have that, from accidents, from disease, different things like that. So it'll be something that will be well used. So he's hoping in the next year or two to be able to do that. But again, most likely going to Guatemala. And, you know, with the political situation in Central America, sometimes you don't know if you're going to get over the border. I mean, he's, you know, they have their paperwork and all of that. You just don't know. So I'm hoping that he's going to be able to do that, because he deserves to learn, because he's worked so hard at it. Okay. This is a breathing treatment, nebulizer treatment. This little guy was not in such good shape. Usually we give 2 or 3 treatments over about an hour or so. Listen to his lungs, check his oxygen levels, that sort of thing. And he was just like this for like 2 of the treatments. So we knew that he needed to stay and have those done. Go ahead. This is a sign. I've never seen this before. It's a sign that was outside the clinic, and it said that they were letting us know about, they were letting whoever was reading this know that the brigade, they call them brigades in Honduras. When we go to these, when people come to the towns, you're going to go see the medical brigade. That this was not political, that that it had nothing to do with the government, that the local mayor was able to arrange for this to come, but there's no political backing of this. So I'd never seen that before. So I don't know if that's going to be, if that was something unique to the town, or if it's going to be something that we'll see. But yeah, again, the political situation can be tense there sometimes. Okay. I think because, well, this past year was an election year for the town and for the country of Honduras. So I think that, to make it fair, didn't say one party or the other, was we made this happen, because that's happened before. And Gustavo's actually asked them to take the signs down, because it's not right. I mean, we came because we wanted to come, not because a political party said, hey, we want you to come, we'll help you. They don't help. We don't get any help from anybody except for a place to be. That's it. So there's some more of the artwork that was in the area. You can see the sign was there on the window, and that artwork was where the people would be sitting. So, are there any more pictures, Dawn? Pastor Dawn? Oh, okay. I'm hurrying because I know everybody probably wants to get out of here. You don't. So this almost looked like a merman, except he's got an ocelot on his head. So I guess he can be everywhere. I don't know. He's got a shell in his hand. There's water underneath. So yeah, but very, very interesting. Probably a jaguar, not an ocelot. That was probably, yeah. I know. Look at that little face. Look at that little face. Yeah, they're just, the kids are like kids everywhere, you know? They've got those sweet faces, and they're so innocent, and they just want to be loved and taken care of. So, yeah. So this is a form that we have filled out. The name is not on the top, so this isn't any HIPAA violation. Not that I think that they care. But at the top, it says what they come for, and then what we do, and all the medications that you can get. They're all in Spanish. And then on the right, in the right corner, is where I saw a patient, and I took the kid's vital. It was a child. I took the vital signs, the oxygen level, the heart rate, and that sort of thing, so that we know what was done. So when the patient comes back, we get the paper back, and we can kind of go from there. So it's, we hope that in a day or two that we won't have to see them again, but that's the way that goes. Okay. So this Gustavo's on the right, and this lady on the left has I think he was probably 4 or 5 months old, little fellow. And she'd worked in a maquila in the factory. She was probably in her early 20s. And I'm not sure if she was married or not, but that really is neither here nor there, except that when she got pregnant with this little fellow, the person that was her partner left, didn't want to have anything to do with her. So she worked as long as she could in the maquila, and then she had the baby. So she really doesn't have a lot of support. So we were giving her some clothing. We gave her some food. We gave her a couple of people that she could talk to about some housing, because there was some issues with housing. Not that we have a lot that we can do for that, but we do have some contacts in every town that we're able, not me, but Gustavo knows. He has a good rapport with the mayors of all the towns we go to, because he goes several times before we go to the village to make sure everything's set up, and they ask what we need, and we tell them those sorts of things. And sometimes we'll have pastors, not as many as I would think, but we have other pastors will come and try and help, because they'll say, well, we could help with this, or we could do that for you. So this lady, this was really hard, because she was really struggling to figure out how she was going to manage working and taking care of a baby, and she had no housing. She was staying with a relative, but there really wasn't any space. When you have 1 or 2 rooms and you have 7 or 8 people in them, it's just, with a young baby, it's not possible. So, okay. So this is the EKG machine that a wonderful donor family gave. We're able to do all of those little lines on it are different patients that we're seeing, and they're stored in there. They can store like 1,500 EKGs. So next year, if we wanted to go back and compare an EKG, we could do that, which is great. And I was telling Judy today that I was looking over my notes, because I usually keep a little notebook, a daily notebook of what's going on. I'd forgotten that we had a young child. She was less than 6, and she came in with a heart rate of 170, which is pretty high. Even for a child, that's pretty high. She was also a child with a high fever, 103, 104 fever. And the physician thought that it was related to the fever. But we weren't really, the physician wasn't sure, and she said, well, it could be this or it could be that. Could we do an EKG on this child? Well, I've never done an EKG on a child before. I didn't even know if this EKG machine could do that, because the parameters are different. But as soon as you put in the age, the parameters change. So we were able to do the EKG. Child was still about 170, but it had pediatric mode was on it. I was thrilled, because I'd never seen that. I'd never seen that before. The child was given some Tylenol, acetaminophen, and within about an hour and a half, the heart rate was down to about 130. The doctor was satisfied with that it was only related to the fever. But we had confirmation that the EKG showed that it was it's called sinus tachycardia. Anything over 100 beats a minute is called tachycardia. And children often are tachycardic. So we were thrilled, not just to have confirmation of that, but we had something new that could be done, and the physicians would be really excited if we had a younger person that we could actually go ahead and get that clinical information that you wouldn't hear just by listening to a heart or getting a heart rate. So this family, I think we're almost done, really. This family, and unfortunately her eyes are closed. The mom's eyes are closed. You can see on her right foot that she's bandaged up. She had a car hit her 10 years ago. 10 years ago. And she still had a wound that was draining. Now, That's not normal. And I said, are you going to the clinic? There is a clinic in the town, but sometimes there's no nurse there, there's no doctor, there's no medicine. We don't know. You don't always know when you go there who you're going to see, if you see anybody at all. And they said, oh yeah, we're going. And they said, sometimes I'm on antibiotics and sometimes I'm not, but it doesn't really hurt. Well, it's not going to hurt. After 10 years, it probably isn't going to hurt because there's probably not going to be much left in as far as nerve sensation goes. Anyway, I asked her, what are you doing to this? How are you doing this bandage? Because she did it every day. And she said, well, I wash it off. I clean it off. And then I put, she was putting like a Vaseline bandage on, which is fine. I said, well, what are you cleaning it off with? And she said, iodine. Iodine actually kills new cells. So when you have a wound, it's fine to clean it off the first time to get rid of the bacteria, any of the toxins that are there. But after that, the skin's going to start to grow back and you're going to expect to see it granulate or grow in, and it's going to start to heal. But when you put iodine on something every single day, there's never going to be any healing. It might be clean, but it's never going to heal. So this was at the beginning of the 2 weeks that we were there. I probably saw her on Tuesday of the first week. And so I told her what she could do. I said, you don't have to come back every day, but I gave her just some saline, which is just salt water. I had little pledgets, little containers that she could just spray on there and just dry off. I gave her some supplies to dry it off, and then some nonstick bandages and all of that. And she came back a couple days later, and I said to her, what do you think? I hadn't taken the bandage. She says, I think it's better. Now, she's saying all this in Spanish, so we had translators, but she said, I think it's better. So anyway, I looked at it and I thought, oh, it's definitely better. So then she came back on Friday, and then she came back on Monday the next week, and then she came back on Wednesday. It had already started to heal. And she was so excited. I mean, the fact that you've had a bandage on for 10 years on your leg, 10 years, 10. So I was thrilled. So she's actually holding a nebulizer. Her oldest son, who's has the Marvel T-shirt on, is an asthmatic, and she had been at some point in time she had a nebulizer, and she was able to treat her son at home so that if he started getting wheezy or starting having an asthmatic problem, she could start doing the neb treatments, and then she wouldn't have to go to the clinic, and then he wouldn't get sicker, and then he would get better. But the machine broke. So she said to me, I can get the medicine from the clinic, but she said, I don't have a nebulizer anymore. It was about $75. So Bethany and friends bought her a nebulizer, which will definitely make her life much easier and his life much healthier. So very grateful to be able to do that. And the little guy in the middle, I can't remember which eye it is, but he had a door slammed in his eye. He actually had very limited vision. We were able to send him to an ophthalmologist specialist, so that cost money that people donated and all. They were not hopeful, but they did do a couple of things, and they wanted to see him in a couple of months. So we actually got the optometrist to give him safety glasses. He does not wear glasses, but now we have to worry about protecting the other eye, because if then something happens to that other eye, now he won't have any vision at all. So there he is with his, very proud to, you can see he's got his thumbs up. Very happy to have those glasses and to know that he won't have to be so worried if something flies into his face. Okay. This lady on the left is Sue. She's a cardiac nurse from Oregon. She's been coming for many years. The fellow on the right, his name is Serafino. He's a big fellow, well over 6 feet tall. Probably the tallest Honduran I'd seen in a long time. Again, he's a diabetic. He had surgery on his leg to improve circulation. Unfortunately, he still lost a couple of toes. But guess what? 3 years later, he still has a wound. Here's another one. What are you cleaning it with? Oh, natural. I always clean it with something natural. And I finally said to the interpreter, the translator, I said, tell me what natural is to him. And he said, iodine. Again, beginning of the project, we see him for a few days. Looks better already. I mean, he was thrilled. And Sue, who is a diabetic, and he's a diabetic, we were able to buy a glucometer for him so that he can check his blood sugars. And she was teaching him how to do that. Again, the glucometer was from Bethany. So these kind of things are really, you know, you can't help everybody, but the people you help, you're really helping. That's Gustavo, and he's with a little boy that you're going to see, hopefully. Did you get that other picture? Anyway, the little boy that's with him is a 6-year-old. He's deaf. We were able to send him for nerve conduction studies to see if he's been deaf since birth, to see if he had any hearing. We don't think that there's much hearing there, but he is going to go see an ENT in March and get a further evaluation. But now at least he's had a little bit of treatment. We're hoping too that we're going to be able, there's a place that he can go to learn some sign language, he and his mom. So we're hoping that he can do that. But again, this is gifted from Bethany, from otherwise he's 5-6 years old. He's never had any been able to have anything except for local doctors who just said he's deaf. So, and this is from the top of the hill. I did not climb this. I did not climb the hill, but most of the towns have a cross that are in the overlooking the towns. Honduras is 85% mountainous, so there's always a hill somewhere. So this is a look over the town. Okay, and can you play? So Dawn's going to play. Dawn's going to play a short video, and it's Gustavo Elasigwe, who is the fellow that I've known for more than 20 years, who runs the program there. Now, 2 caveats. The background noise is loud. It's raining. He did it out like on a covered porch area. So that's why I hope you can hear it. And secondly, he apologized for his poor English. I understand everything he says, but we're hoping to be able to have some closed caption if possible at some point, and then you'll be able to hear all the words.
Hello friends, my name is Gustavo Lisegui. With my wife Mildred, we have been serving since 2003 with the beginning with the MMI, Medical Ministry International, and now with Honduras Humanitarian Mission also. For us, it has been a big privilege from God to have this opportunity to visit the people in the village, people in the towns of our country, to see face to face the need and to have this opportunity to serve them with medical projects. We have some goals for the future, to have a permanent center, to have a clinic with social service, permanent, with medical, dental, optometry and optical, to help our people. This year, we have succeeded recently to have our own organization, Honduras Humanitarian Mission. Now we are already registered this organization in the Honduras government. This vehicle can help us to establish partnership with churches, with NGOs, international, to continue serving, to continue making better our job here in Honduras. We have a big challenges. We need support for our staff, support for us, even for us, like project directors, and we are praying for that. I want to say thank you to the Bethany Church. Thank you for all this year, sending money, sending supplies, sending equipment. Thank you for the dental chair that you sent. Now our dentists are helped I'm happy to have this new one, dental chair. Thank you for the EKG. Now we can have in our project cardiology or internal medicine doctor, and we can improve every day our project the, to serve our people. Thank you, the Bethany Church. Please, thank you for continue praying for us. Continue praying for Honduras. Continue praying for our goals. Thank you so much, and God bless you, brothers and sisters.
That's it. Any questions? You probably have had enough. Yes. Well, and when I went in 1999, we slept in a school. We slept in a big room with 35 people in it, and on the floor. No running water there. We had to walk like a couple hundred feet to get to a place to go to the bathroom and that sort of thing. Year after year, it's gotten a little bit better. This year, we actually stayed in a hotel, which was very nice, and it was the first time we've ever had hot water. We always have cold shower. We never have hot water. So I have to think that, that's how my first year there, this is how the people that live there live. So I've been grateful for just being in a place with a roof on it. And so this year it was really an exception, but yeah, this year it was much different than it has been before. So.
Had you been to that place before?
Nope, this is the first time, and the plan is to go back again at least next year. So we follow up on some of these folks and that sort of thing. Yeah. Yep. Well, I asked Gustavo about, the dental chair was something that he said we've really needed another dental chair, a good dental chair. So we were able to do that. He told us that he actually could buy one from a dentist that was used but had been barely used, and we felt confident that he knew what he wanted, what he needed. So we were able to do that. The EKG machine was something that was a real wish list, that they could. It was over $1,700 that they could never afford to buy. I forgot to mention that we also sent a fetal monitor that is used when we're down there to check the heartbeats of unborn babies, which is really important because when a mother hasn't felt that baby move for a day or two, there's a lot of anxiety everywhere in the whole world. It's like that. So to be able to do that is really a big deal. So I'll get back to you. I really rely on what Gustavo thinks he needs, because what I think and what he thinks can be very different. And I think so far what we've been able to accomplish with all the supplies are things that he's wanted. Some of the extra things that we've done, they have indeed been extra, like some of the clothing and some, I do a lot. I do the dressings and the breathing treatments and the EKGs and those kinds of things. And I'll say, oh, well, I'm going to order thus and such because I know that I'm going to use a lot of that. And I did not mention this, but the mission committee is the one that provides all the guidance and support and help. But a big chunk of the money comes from the endowment committee. Not only do they pay for our fees and transportation, but they bought over $600 worth of supplies this year. And we're so lucky to have Doug Oberholzer. I wish he'd come in and take a bow. We were able to order through the endowment committee, through their site, or it's not called a site, but he was able to, could send him what I thought we needed through Amazon, and he was able to order it through the endowment committee and have it sent here. How perfect was that? So we weren't dragging it in, and he would check everything to make sure things were not broken and all of that. So, but I'll get back. I'll talk to Gustavo and see what he thinks is important. Yes, Judy.
I would add that Charlotte's already talking about next November. So if you see medicines on sale, you mentioned Tylenol, for about, together, they're about $4,000 that we paid, and that pays for some of her supplies and her accommodation, hotel,
And Wendy as well.
and Wendy, for the two of them to go. So, it's a big commitment. So this will be your 26th year coming up.
Yeah.
So, as you see things, keep that in mind. And this is a effort that Charlotte's that goes on year round. She's in touch with Gustavo, a couple times a month. So we really feel the relationships that she's developed with Canadians and with the Honduran people that she works with. And that's important because now we know really what they need. And Doug wrote it, and Endowment Committee has been very supportive the last few years, especially to help cover some of those fees. So if you want to help, we're researching now what's needed.
And the only thing for the medication, other than hopefully you're buying it at a good price, is to check the dates on it, that it must be later than the end of 26. It should really be into 27. At this point, there's a lot on the shelves that you should be able to get like that. But yeah, and don't feel like you have to ever buy brand names because the store brands are just as good. So yes, Bruce.
What was the, or is the relationship that that the group has with the political situation there?
They have no, they're an NGO. MMI, which is Medical Ministry International, is actually located in Canada, in Toronto, Canada. They have an office in the U.S. so that we can send our monies and whatever we need in the U.S. and then it gets transferred. So that's that. We don't have, and then he has HHM, which is Honduras Humanitarian Mission. He does that on a local level. He might just go for 3 days and he'll get people. He has like a doctor from his church, 2 doctors from his church came on this project. A retired internal medicine doctor who is just retired like in the last year, and a cardiologist who is still in practice. So he's able to do these small mission groups there. It's a legitimate NGO, and there is nothing to do with the political situation other than their feelings, which they don't even really like to talk about. They just, you really can't talk about your political feelings too much because you don't know who's there and what might happen. So we may talk a little bit when we're eating and that sort of thing, but nothing else. So there's no political affiliation at all. Kathy. Mm-hmm. So over the years, we've been able to accumulate that, and I'll tell you, I wash ears because a lot of people have wax or they have insects or other things going on in their ears, and I never thought about this before, but somebody gifted, and it's been around for a long time, but it still works. Gifted a hot water heater, a tea hot water heater. So I can heat up the water. So when I'm cleaning someone's ears, it's not the cold water, because you know what that's like when you get cold water in your ears. So we do have some things, and like the dentist, I think they have, except for a few years ago they got a special generator for dentists, so that they could do some of the drilling that they do, because they didn't really have the ability to do that. But I'll definitely check with him. They're not bereft of these things, but every time we can add something, it means that they can do that much more for the patients. So all good. Thanks for coming and listening. Thanks for your support. And Bethany is a blessing to people you don't even know, and you never will know. Thank you.
And we thank you, Charlotte. We thank you for your servant heart. And just being the hands and feet of Jesus, and going out and doing this mission year after year, despite the political climate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not safe, right? But you still continue to go.
Yeah. Well, I've said this before. When I go to Honduras, I never go by myself. I always go because Bethany is with me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing.
Sure.